about over 2 weeks, you've gone from, I'm not a morning person, I can't do this, to, okay, fine, I'll wake up 15 minutes earlier. And then now you've added all 6 savers into, it could be a 6-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute practice. And then to your point, it becomes addictive. You go, wow, when I do these practices, I have so much more clarity. I feel so much happier. I have so much more like motivation. And when I don't do them, I'm like, I really missed out. Like when you don't run, you're missing out on the benefits of running.
Hal Elrod, my friend, great to have you on the podcast. The last time I saw you, you were feeding me sushi that wasn't sushi, and that was fun. That was the wildest experience of my life. It was all plant-based sushi, but you couldn't
vegan
tell.
Plant-based sushi from a restaurant called Planta, which you can attest to someone who was like, wait, what do you, and I literally fed it to you. I'm like, yeah, that was my value proposition for everyone that wasn't willing to try vegan sushi. I'm like, what if I fed it to you? You're like, I'm like, okay, here we go.
It was wild. And I can say that definitely I had never intentionally ingested eggplant before.
Yeah.
And there was the eel that was made from eggplant, which was wild.
Yeah.
And the dehydrated watermelon.
As tuna.
Yeah, that was, it just goes to show, honestly, I think there's a lot of lessons in there. I could probably, I could be an influencer and write a blog post or something about it. But like the fact that your brain can trick you into things, and there's a lot of, it was interesting and fun. Great to see you here. Look, the world mostly knows you from, your global phenomenon, The Miracle Morning. That book's been out a while now, over 10 years, which I love. And you just republished a new edition of it. Everyone should go get it. We'll plug it a few times.
Yeah.
But let's talk about what led to creating The Miracle Morning first. And then I'd love to just learn like what you learned over a decade of publishing it. Obviously you refined, you might've figured out some things weren't as true as you thought. I don't just update me, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I love it. What led to it, it was never a book idea. It was, not never, but it wasn't initially a book idea. It was 2008. The US economy crashed. I was a coach. I coached salespeople, entrepreneurs, did some life coaching. And when the economy started to crash, I'm one of those eternal optimists. So people are like, are you watching the news? I'm like, I don't watch the news. I create my own economy, right? And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wait, okay, coaching clients are calling and they can't afford me anymore because their industry is really suffering and they don't have money. And so in a 6-month period, I lost over half of my income. I had to foreclose on my house. I couldn't pay the mortgage. Nothing I was trying to figure out how to get clients was working. And so for the first time in my life, I went into like a deep depression. I was like, this is hopeless. I'm scared. I don't know what I'm going to do. My identity is a mess because I'm a success coach and I can't figure out how to be successful anymore, And so a single quote is really what led to The Miracle Morning. I was listening to an audio one morning. My buddy John Berghoff was like, hey, listen to this audio. It'll help you. Jim Rohn, he said, your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development. And I'd probably heard that before, but it landed. I quantified it that morning. I literally hit rewind on my iPod and I listened again. Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development. So then I had to ask myself 2 questions that I would ask or encourage everybody listening to ask. Number 1, what level of success do I want on a scale of 1 to 10? And when I say success, I'm talking how you would measure success in your health, as a parent, in your marriage, right? Not just like business success, in every area of life. On a scale of 1 to 10, what level do you want? And I would argue the answer is 10 for everyone. It's a human nature. And then if you ask yourself, well, what's my level of personal development? In other words, what am I doing every day to develop myself into the level 10 version of me in each of these key areas of my life as a parent, in my business, my finances, my health?
That's huge. Most everyone, like I don't listen to so many self-help people because they just don't live a life like I live. Like I'm super happy if they've got no kids, maybe a spouse, they go on 3 date nights a week and they wake up at 3 a.m. and do their
yoga.
Yeah, whatever it is. I'm like, no, like I have children that last night we got home from a soccer. We went to bed almost at midnight. Like, and that's just because my kids are studying. Like, not that I shouldn't have my own, rituals and things that I do,
Yeah.
but like it's really hard to listen to somebody that's only focused on one area of life. So sorry to interrupt, but I
Yeah.
love that every area of life.
Yeah. No, please. So for me, when asked that question, I go, okay, my level of success, I want level 10. I want, to be as healthy and happy and wealthy and in love as I possibly can be. What's my level of personal development? In 2008, when I'm at this lowest point in my life, I was like, all my habits went out the window because I'm like, I have to make money. I have to make money. I stopped exercising. I stopped eating healthy. I stopped reading. I stopped doing everything because I have to make money. I was totally outcome focused, which I think most people are. And so when I heard this Jim Rohn quote, I went, well, wait a minute. My level of success is like I want level 10, but my personal development's at a 2 or 3. And that's the disconnect for, I think, most of society is we all want level 10, but we're not dedicating ourselves each day to becoming a level 10 version of us that can create what we want in our life. And so I went, I've got to figure out what the world's most successful people do for personal development. I'm going to put together, I want to create the most effective personal development practice based on proven methodologies that have stood the test of time. And that's where the Miracle Morning was born. I combined 6 of the most timeless practices. They're now known as the Savers: silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing into one ritual that can be done in as little as 6 minutes. Most often I would do 30 or 60. And I started every day with this ritual. And in less than 2 months, I doubled my income at the height of the Great Recession. And I went to my wife and I said, sweetheart, this is a freaking miracle. This morning routine has enabled me to double our income in 2 months. She goes, it's your miracle morning, without skipping a beat. And I go, I like that miracle morning. And so I wrote it down on my schedule every day. Then I taught it to my coaching clients. They all pushed back, said, I'm not a morning person. I said, no, neither was I. Here's how you beat the snooze button so you can do this. And 13 out of 14 clients came to the next call, Nick, and they were like, Hal, oh my gosh, I'm waking up, I'm meditating, I'm journaling, I'm exercising, I'm visualizing, and I am a morning person. And I'm having the best results in my life. And that's when I went, if it changed their life and my life and we weren't morning people, I have to write a book about this, and the rest is history.
I love it. There's so many questions here. Some people don't have the control exactly of when they go to bed, right? Because of kids, and it may be all the time or maybe sometimes. So I know there's a big thing, like you got to wake up at 5, you got to do this. Does it matter what time you actually wake up, or is it really just about doing these things first?
So yeah, there's 2 answers to that question. And it's not about the 5 a.m. club. Like, I'm a huge fan of Robin Sharma. I think that's a phenomenal book. But this is the wake up earlier than you have to club by 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. That's it. If you normally would get up at 9 a.m. or if you're if you're a shift worker and you wake up at 2 p.m., then your miracle morning starts at 1:30, right? Yeah. So that's the first piece, because the reason for that is that how you start your day, what you do the first part of your day, sets the tone, the context, and the direction for the rest of your day. If you win the morning, you set yourself up to win the day. But if you resist the morning and you wake up at the last minute and you're chaotic running out the door, now you've started the day reactive instead of proactive, and you end up being reactive in your relationships, at work, with your kids, versus being proactive at work, relationships, kids. So that's the first piece. And the second thing I'll say is these 6 practices, the Savers, they can be done any time of day. A lot of people say, like, couldn't I do my Savers like in the evening? Yes, but the benefits of doing your Savers are increased cognitive function. You don't want to wait until the day's over to get that. Increased physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy. You want that first thing in the morning. So, but like for moms that have newborns, do your Savers the best you can. Maybe you're doing 1 or 2 every time the child takes a nap, and you're finishing your Savers at 6 in the evening before dinner or whatever.
Yeah. And I think the key to, there's a lot of keys to this, that everything you're saying makes just common sense, but there's a lot of research behind it too. People can dig into if they want, but there is a lot of research behind it. The other thing that I think is, fascinating about this is our mutual friend, James Altucher, who to me, some of his daily practices and sort of the way he found his own system is one of the best stories ever. That's why we did an Amazon, docuseries on it.
Yeah. Phenomenal.
But it's, look, one of the ideas, I think one of the most simple ideas, even if everyone rejects everything else because their brain is fighting or whatever here, is that if you would just spend a little bit of time, most people don't spend time once a month becoming a better version of themselves.
Yeah.
And so if you did it once a week, and then if you do it daily, it does get addictive, because your perspective on life just gets so much better. The way I do it is really interesting. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I run pretty much every day, or run and lift. So I do a lot of audiobooks. And then what's been really fascinating for me, I didn't even figure this out because I'm not that smart till not that long ago, but like, I interview the most successful people in the world almost every day.
Yeah.
And so whether it's Larry King or Kathy Lee Gifford or whoever, or you, like, I just get personal development fed to me whether
Yeah.
I want it or not.
Sure.
And it's really cool because I literally get to see, because there is no one thing that works for everybody. There's obviously most everything in your saver system, if not everything, it definitely could help everybody, but not everything's for everybody. But
Sure.
it's fascinating to me to work with, to interview Jelly Roll and talk to him, a guy who really is like up most of the night, right? And
Yeah.
just concerts and traveling, or someone like you who's much more disciplined, or whatever. So I think it's really interesting. The thing I would just encourage people to do most important is like, find your tribe, like whatever it is. Like it may or may not be what Hal presents here. I think obviously there's a lot of people around the world finding it working, but I think just in general, there is a framework for success. And as they say, success leaves clues. Like, pay attention. And if you do nothing else, start trying to fill your brain with something positive every day.
Yeah.
If you just try to let it happen on its own, it probably won't, because the world and all the apps, all the news, everything. I mean, it's a business. I don't love what they do for society, but if we just look at it as just plain business, their job is to make you addicted to it, and
Yep.
they do it well. So, but they use negativity to do that. Just be aware of that. So try to feed yourself something positive. The other thing that's funny, I have a friend who told me a while back, which reminds me of what you just said. He was asking me actually at the time about I was trying to grow my social presence. And he said, Nick, do you want hobbyist results or do you want professional results? I was like, ooh, what do you mean? He's like, well, if you want professional results, you're going to have to put a professional effort in. I'm like, oh, so some of the things you're saying here remind me of the same thing. Like, you got to if you really want your life to get better,
Yeah.
like you've got to put some time in, and don't start with 3 hours a day, or like, I didn't start. I run typically 5 miles a day, and I used to play tennis a lot. Like, I was in the top 50 in the state of Florida. I got recruited to play college, all these things, and I got injuries that everyone else does, right? But my tennis coach used to try to make us run a mile. I literally would pitch a fit about, like, I did not understand how running a mile was even possible.
Yeah. I hated running the high school mile.
Dude, I thought there was only one speed, sprint. And like, how do you sprint for this long? Turns out some people can. I couldn't.
Yeah.
But it's just like anything else. It's just sort of like setting some goals. And actually, we'll get into it. You have a 30-day habit forming challenge, which it's one of the smartest ways I've ever seen this broken down. If someone wants to form a habit, let's say running,
Yeah.
how do we do this in a 30-day time period, and why 30 days?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different research and results that have come out around habit forming, right? One of the most popular is the 21-day habit strategy, which is from, I believe it was Maxwell Maltz's book, Cybernetics, that popularized that based on, I forgot what the study was that they used, but that just went widespread. Everyone's like, it takes 21 days. Like, it just got repeated over and over and over again. And then there's, in the book, The One Thing, there's a Harvard study that says, no, 66 days is actually how long it takes to instill a habit. So I played with various time frames, and for me, I'm a big believer in that we create our own reality in many ways, right? So if you tell yourself, I'm not a morning person, well, then you're not a morning person. If you say, I can become a morning person, then you can. If you say, it's going to take me 6 years to develop a habit, then it will. If you say, I can do it in 21 days, whatever, then it will. So where I landed was what I call this going from unbearable to unstoppable. That's the strategy. It's this 30-day habit strategy, unbearable to unstoppable. And the idea is that there are 3 10-day phases when you approach changing a habit, ending a habit, starting a new one. The first 10 days, days 1 through 10, is the unbearable phase, where you're like, this is every fiber of your being is like, use running for an example, right? In fact, I ran an ultra marathon because I hated running. And when I was doing the Miracle Morning, I thought, what better way to evolve into a level 10 version of myself mentally, physically, than to commit to run 52 consecutive miles when I've never run, like you said, more than a mile, and I hated it. So The first 10 days are unbearable. Every fiber of your being is like, I don't like this. It's uncomfortable. I'm not good at this. I'm not a good runner. I'm winded. I can't breathe, right? Or same thing with waking up early. I want to go back to bed. This isn't comfortable. I'm not a morning person. If you understand that we can make it through anything if we know it's temporary. And that's the problem, is our brain does not normally automatically distinguish, oh, wait, this is only going to be for a little bit. If I just keep pushing, it'll get easier. What happens is we go, oh my God, this is how this habit is. This is how it's on day 2 and 3. And you're like, this sucks. I can't do this. It's like, wait. If you had a coach right there, you go, can you do this for 7 more days? If you knew that it was going to get easier and the results were going to change your life forever, you're like, okay. So days 1 through 10, unbearable. Days 11 through 20 is the uncomfortable phase, where now you're not hating it. You're just kind of like, it'd be easier to keep sleeping. It'd be easier to not run. But you're kind of like in this weird middle ground where most people would just go, I'm just going to go back to the way things were before. Days 21 through 30 is what I call the unstoppable phase, because at some point in that range, you end up waking up and you go to tie up your running shoes and there's you're not even aware, but the resistance that was there for the last 20 days, it's not even there anymore. And you're like and you're actually kind of looking forward to going for that run. You got the benefits and you go for the run. And all of a sudden after you go, wait a minute, I didn't hate that. I never once tried to talk myself out of it. And that might happen on day 22 or day 28 or 24 or day 16, right? It's not a perfect science or perfect formula. The point is, if you understand that you go through these 3 phases, I think you can make them happen in 10 days versus 30, right? But let's say 30. And then you go, oh, it's going to get easier and easier and easier until it becomes such an easy habit that I'll never not want to do it. And you said it yourself, it becomes a positive addiction.
Yes. And by the way, the feelings you get from working out, running, I mean, they're really, it's amazing when you start doing it a lot and you start craving it. Like if I've been sick for like the last week and I got out, I was able to walk today for 3 miles and I haven't been able to lift. And it just, it's like, I can't wait to get back to doing that because it makes me feel normal. One thing I'm trying right now, which is interesting, just sort of in the same vein. I wasn't familiar with this, so my stats probably won't be totally correct, but apparently in sort of the study of longevity and aging gracefully and trying to maintain your youth and your fitness, apparently it's about 80-20. They say that you should be working out in cardiovascular fitness in like 80% of the time should be in heart rate zone 2, which I didn't even know what that was. People can look it up.
Is that very really low and easy and mellow?
It's like it's really weird because yes, it is pretty mellow at first, because I was just like I'm not super fast, especially as I age, but like I'll do 5 miles. My average pace is about 9 minutes to 9:15, so like I'm running pretty good. Like it's not a bad pace. And so but someone started asking me what my heart rate was. I'm like, I don't know. I don't pay attention. And so I started trying to pay attention on my Apple Watch. Turns out that's not really very accurate, by the way. And I got a Whoop band, and turns out that's not really that accurate when you're moving either. So I ended up getting like the straight up heart rate, the band on my chest that sort of, you can link it to your Apple Watch and take it over. And basically there's a calculation. It's something like your max heart rate minus whatever. But basically I'm 44 and you can do it with like a VO2 max test would be best. But like the basic numbers are my level 2 heart rate should be like 110 to 120. Okay. And when I was just running 5 miles regularly, I'd get up in the 160s, sometimes, low 170s. And my friend Leor Weinstein would say, hey, really what you want to do, like you want to do that like 20% of the time, but what you really want to do is you want to spend like 80% of the time in zone 2, which is like that 110 to 120. And so he told me sort of how to start doing it. And it takes about 30 days, as you would say. What's funny is at first you start to like jog and then you get over 120, you got to walk. And like, it's so frustrating. It's just a start, stop. You feel like an idiot. You feel like everyone's looking at you like that guy can't even run. What is he doing? And then like eventually get to where you're like sort of like slow jogging, like an 80-year-old.
You find like the correct pace. Yeah.
Yeah, your pace sucks, but you're just trying to get that heart rate. And you're looking at it every 5 seconds. And then before I got sick, I was about 2 weeks into it, and all of a sudden I noticed my heart rate was controlling, and my my pace was getting faster. And apparently what happens is as you do it for about, they say 30 to 60 days, what ends up happening is you train your heart rate down, and then you can actually run faster in that range.
Got it.
And then only your sprints get up into that level 4, level 5.
Yeah.
So again, just that I experienced that same thing recently. One of the things I would encourage people, because I deal with this a lot, probably mostly in my songwriting world, because music is a tough business, and like kids don't know where to go. Their parents typically don't know what to do. And so I typically am the guy who gets people's first song they've ever written. And I always ask, do you want me to be real with you, or do you want me to encourage you, or do you want me to do both?
Yeah.
The answer is usually both. I'm like, well, the good news is, you're going to get better at this. The good news and the bad news is your first song is not great. However, let's flip it around. If I told you, or someone else is not, if you want to get into painting or photography or whatever it is, or running an ultra marathon, if I told you your first mile you ran was going to be the fastest mile you'd run the rest of your life, would that be motivating or demotivating? It would be demotivating. So if I tell people, if your first song you ever wrote was the best one you ever write, would you be excited? You're like, perfect. So just keep going, keep trying. And we're all going to suck when we start. Like,
Sure.
I don't know why, as human beings who've achieved so much in our lives, we still fight that.
Yeah.
Like, we want to start something and we want to be the freaking best.
Totally.
And it's just not going to happen. So put up with the suck. Understand that that's like part of the journey.
Yeah.
That's part of the process. And, as corny as it is, like, the more I analyze life and the older I get, literally all we get is the journey. And I just know at some point, if I'm lucky enough, I'd be like on my deathbed going like, I wish I didn't waste away those 2 hours in that doctor's office. Like, I was so angry waiting on the doctor, and that if I could get those 2 hours back. So just like embrace the suck, figure out something. And I think the biggest thing most people don't do, I love the way you break that down into 30 days. The way you said, it's going to get easier. It's going to get better. It's really interesting how as evolved as we have become as human beings, that we still go to this lizard brain. The moment we start doing something hard, it's like, this is never going to get easy. This sucks. I'm terrible at this. I hate it. And it's like, even the most successful people on earth. So I love that whole concept. You say to start the day with silence, reduces stress, improves mental clarity. A lot of people talk about meditation, prayer. How do you do it? What do you do?
Yeah, for me, it's a combination. I say a quick prayer, or not always quick, but usually I say a prayer, a gratitude, and pray for clarity. And the way I view, without getting too deep into this, but prayer to me is co-creation with God. And that's also, it's amazing. I was just watching on my lunch break today. You got to watch this, by the way. I was watching Tom Bilyeu's Impact Theory interview that came out with Jordan Peterson. Did you see that?
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. No.
Dude, and Jordan, I think, used to be atheist, and now he's, very much believes in God and talks a lot about it. And Tom, my understanding is he's atheist. So it was amazing to hear these two intellectual, go at it. But anyway, so the way I view God is, it's a very loaded word that is. Anyway, we don't need to go into that point. But the point is, I start with prayer, and then I'll meditate, and it just depends. Sometimes I'll meditate for. Usually it's about 5 minutes. So my whole silence takes about, 5, 6, 7 minutes. And sometimes it's less, but it's really what I need. And that's what I do with my Miracle Morning. That's something I used to be so militant. When the original book came out, it was like, here's the savers. You should do them for an hour. Here's the order you should do them in, right? And then after 11 years of A, doing the practice, and then B, interacting with readers and members of the Miracle Morning community, it's like, hey, you can do them in 6 minutes. There's a whole chapter in the new edition of the book called the 6-Minute Miracle Morning. Literally, like, you can do all 6 savers in 6 minutes. Or you can do them in any order that you want. You can do them, you might only do half of them on certain, so for me, it's like, what do I need today? And sometimes I'll start with exercise. If I'm like, I'm exhausted, like I slept on the wrong side of the bed, I need to get blood and oxygen to my brain. I'm going to do 60 seconds of jumping jacks before I do anything else, because otherwise I'm not in a great state. So I'll do that, right? Sometimes if my mindset is not good and I'm trying to meditate, but my brain is like, just has negative thoughts or anxiety, I'll actually pull out a book that I'm rereading or that I'm reading that really will direct my mindset. I'll read it until I'm like, oh, new paradigm, different way of seeing things. I feel very differently now after reading that. Then I'll close the book and I'll set my timer for 5 minutes and I'll meditate on what I just read. So it's a very flexible, scalable, customizable, the Miracle Morning as a practice in terms of how long it is, the order it is, et cetera, et cetera.
That's great. Yeah, it's a framework. It's an operating system that you
Yes.
can utilize as you like. Um, yeah, I'm a Christian and I love the God that I serve. But I would tell everybody, no matter where you're at on that topic, I think at the very least, I think we could all agree that believing that there's someone more in charge than you are, or something more in charge than you are, will at least allow you to surrender and say, you know what, I can't control everything. I think at the very least, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
happy to go deeper on that with anybody anytime, but I
Totally.
agree with that. You talk about, reading, visualization. There's been a lot, obviously visualization has been proven for many years. Scribing, I would say it's really interesting. Keeping a journal, that's like one thing I've just never done. I think I have an aversion to it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about journaling and what you found, and you have a huge community. Any other stories you found it's worked?
Yeah. So for me, journaling, so here's how I talk about it. There's benefits in the daily practice, but to me, the biggest benefits may be actually the compounding benefits. And here's what I mean. So daily, what I journal, first, is there anything I need to let go of? There's really 3 questions I ask to kick off my journaling. Is there anything I need to let go of? And that's like, is there anything that I'm allowing that, and I just get quiet and I'm like, ooh, yeah, I'm really stressed right now about this aspect in my life, or God, that argument with my spouse yesterday, God, that's still bothering me, right? So is there anything I need to let go of and or process, right? So, and I will write that down. And there's just magic that happens when you get a thought, whether it's a positive thought or especially to me a negative thought, out of your head and onto paper. So the thing that I need to let go of that I write down, it's like I just gave myself permission to stop worrying about it, stop allowing it to be the monkey on my back that is negatively affecting my mental and emotional well-being, because it's in my journal. And if I want to ruminate on it, I can do it anytime by going back to the journal. But the problem is when we don't have a thought or a feeling stored somewhere, we feel like we have to continue ruminating over that thought. And if it's a negative thought, that could be detrimental. The second thing is, what am I grateful for? And it's one thing, I call it, there's a difference between intellectual gratitude and heartfelt gratitude. Intellectual gratitude is if I asked you, what are you grateful for? You would go, you'd look up to the left and go, the roof over my head, check. My family, check, right? My health, check. Versus I'm grateful for my wife, and then putting my hand on my heart and closing my eyes and seeing her face, maybe even imagining life without her for just a moment to get some contrast of how grateful I really am for her. And then sitting in gratitude for a good 30 to 60 seconds and smiling and feel. That's the gratitude that I'm talking about. So once I write it down, I close my eyes, put my hand on my heart, and I sit in that gratitude. And the third thing is, and this is really for the entrepreneurs, for the A-type personalities, I look at my to-do list and I go, okay, I've got 17 things I could work on today that I really need to get done. But what's the one thing, right? The concept, the one thing that most important on this list that'll make the biggest impact in my life or my business. And I commit to do that first to earn the right to work on the second most important thing, and then the third most important thing. I write those 3 down, and then the rest of the list gets put away. And that helps me get clarity and optimize my productivity. And scribing is the last part of my Miracle Morning before I transition into my workday. So it's a perfect flow into, okay, what am I doing today? Because human nature, last thing I'll say, Nick, human nature is to gravitate toward the thing with the least consequence attached to it, right? I'm going to just check email, and then I can trick myself into thinking that I was really productive because I spent an hour answering 17 emails, right? But is that the thing that's going to move the needle in your business the most? And more often than not, it's not. So do that thing first, the thing you're putting off, the thing with the biggest consequence or the biggest risk. And once you get that done, you earn the right to check your email.
That's great. Our mutual friend, Dan Sullivan, talks a lot about that. He does it the night before he decides the 3 things he's going to do tomorrow. And he said, he obviously decides the 3 most important things to do tomorrow. And he said, when I'm done with those, I'm done with my day. Then that I have freedom to do whatever I want the rest of my day. And he said, and I can tell you, if you do 3 important things a day, 15 important things a work week,
Yep.
you will be so much more productive than, I mean, most of the world, just because you're intentional about it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I just interviewed David Allen yesterday of Getting Things Done.
Nice.
And he talks about how the mind is a great thinking device, but a terrible storage device.
I remember that. Yeah.
And, and what you're saying is also just another version of like, let's get it out of my head. So I'm not harboring. Like, one thing I've learned to do over the years that it hasn't been, I've started to become more present to it, but I don't think most people are. And I finally, from working with so many people, I started realizing it when I started feeling anxious. I would actually, now I'll stop and say, what made me anxious?
Yeah.
Like, is it an email I read this morning that just came back? Is it a text I just got? Is something about like, what is making me anxious and why? And then I can try to deal with the emotion so it can't do that to me anymore. Because when you don't identify what's making you anxious, you just have this terrible feeling, and then you take it out and it sort of, it like seeps into everything else you're doing.
Totally.
The other thing I think is cool about this is, I don't know if you know Perry Marshall. Perry's sort of a great marketing genius.
Yeah, I know of him.
He talks about when you do this practice of like, it's almost like meditation and writing at the same time, of like what's on your mind and dumping it. He talks about it being sort of a letter. It's like a letter to you from God. Like in that way, you're like downloading, like, what do I need to deal with? Because he's put it on my mind for a reason.
Yeah.
So that's the way you just explained that. I shall try that, because that actually makes more sense to me. Like, my typical version of journaling, like, I don't need a diary. Like, what am I? I don't want anyone to read this anyway later. And I have no reason to think I need to preserve this at all times. And also with my career of making documentaries, the way I explain it, like, I only travel 7 nights a month because of my family, but like I typically go away 1 to 2 nights a week somewhere with my best friends in the world, and we make the best home video ever. Like, we come back home and we have proof of everything we've done.
Nice.
It's been amazing. And so I don't need to particularly archive anything, but it's a great way to deal with.
And Nick, I will say that if you are a person that likes to use apps, the Miracle Morning app has a built-in journal, and it has those 3 prompts in it. So it's a way to just like easily keep that journal going.
I love that. What if someone wants to get started? Obviously, in all of these things, getting started is the hardest part, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say is like the easiest way to get started? If someone says, all right, I'm going to try some version of this tomorrow, is it do a few things? Is it, no, you got to do all 6? Like, what's the best way to get started?
Yeah. So when I give, my signature keynote message is the Miracle Morning. I speak on that every month, and I end it, right? The difference of being with somebody for 60 minutes, right, versus them reading your book for 3 weeks. 3 weeks, you can really take them into a 30-day journey, do the savers, right? No problem. 60 minutes, you got a lot less of investment from them. So what I do is I end it by saying, all right, I'm going to invite y'all to do the Miracle Morning 30-day journey. And we're going to keep this as easy as humanly possible to set you up for success. So wake up 10 to 30 minutes earlier, right? If you want to wake up an hour earlier and do all 6 savers, great. Just wake up 10 and, like 15, let's say 15 minutes earlier. Anyone can do that. Even if you're not a morning person, anybody can get up 50. If that means you do 15 minutes less, television at night or whatever, go to bed 15 minutes earlier, wake up 15 minutes earlier. And then step 2 is do one of the savers. You don't have to do all 6 of them. And the idea is that you're going to build a miracle morning over time. And if somebody's never read the Miracle Morning, I'll often, recommend, I'll go, look, just do when you first wake up 15 minutes earlier, brush your teeth. Now you got 10 minutes. I would do the R, do reading. And if you read the Miracle Morning, after about a week, you're going to get to the chapter on silence, and then add silence to your next Miracle Morning. Whether that means you wake up an extra 5 minutes early, right? And at that point, it'll be easy. Or maybe you just do half reading, half silence. Then you do the chapter on affirmations, and you add affirmations on the next day. So in about over 2 weeks, you've gone from, I'm not a morning person, I can't do this, to, okay, fine, I'll wake up 15 minutes earlier. And then now you've added all 6 savers into, it could be a 6-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute practice. And then to your point, it becomes addictive. You go, wow, when I do these practices, I have so much more clarity. I feel so much happier. I have so much more like motivation. And when I don't do them, I'm like, I really missed out. Like when you don't run, you're missing out on the benefits of running.
So this whole idea of affirmations can sound super corny.
Oh, I love this. Let's go.
Yeah, tell us about the science behind it. Tell us how it really works. Because I would say at the most cynical level, people might think it sounds like fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like, that's sort of like what? No, if I say I'm 6 feet tall and I'm beautiful, like it's not, I don't know how that changes anything. So share with us how affirmations really work.
So I'm so glad you asked me this, because affirmations are my favorite of the savers, but I think they're the most misunderstood and the most mistaught of the savers, and they have a bad rap, right? There's a stigma around affirmations. And I think that the reason, actually we'll go 3 reasons. I was gonna say 2 reasons, but if you ever watch Saturday Night Live in the 90s, there was a show called Daily Affirmations with Stuart Smalley. And it was a super goofy, he had a really exaggerated lisp, and he said, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me, right? So that imprinted an entire generation, this idea of like affirmations are for like really pathetic, goofy people trying to pump themselves up. That's number 1. The 2 reasons though that I talk about in the book, number 1, is that we've been taught to lie to ourselves until we believe the lie is true. Like trick ourselves, like you said, fake it till we make it. So for example, if you are struggling financially, there are well-meaning self-help gurus that would tell you, you just need an affirmation that says, I am wealthy. I am wealthy. And just say it over and over and over, and then you'll believe it. And then you'll become wealthy, right? Like that's not how it works. The second problem with affirmation. So number 1, the first problem, right? Lying to yourself is not the optimal strategy, because the truth will always prevail, and your subconscious knows the truth, or at least how you feel your truth. So if you go, I am wealthy, but you know you're like in the red, your subconscious goes, no, you're not. Why are you lying to yourself? And now you're like fighting inside. Shut up. I'm doing the affirmations. So number 2, flowery passive language. This is the second reason affirmations don't work for people. Flowery passive language that promises a magical result independent of any effort on your part is not a effective affirmation. So we've been taught like, I am a money magnet. Money flows to me effortlessly and in abundance, right? Now, the funny part is that affirmation has stood the test of time. Like it's still taught. You can still find it if you Google affirmations. I think the reason why is it's like a drug. It's like a Band-Aid. Imagine if you're struggling, you look at your phone and your bank balance isn't where, it's negative or whatever. And you go, oh my God, I'm so stressed over my reality. So you go, I got to do my affirmations. You put the phone down, you go, I'm a money magnet. Oh, that feels better. That feels better. Money is going to flow into my life effortlessly. Oh, thank God, because I don't have any motivation to work hard. And in abundance. Everything's going to magically get better because I have these awesome affirmations, right? So that's the reason affirmations have a bad rap, and they actually don't work when done that way. I'm going to teach everybody 3 steps real quick. And in the book, I literally, obviously I elaborate on these, and I give you templates where you can create these affirmations for every area of your life. Affirmations that are rooted in truth, that are practical, that are actionable, that are results oriented. 3 steps. Step 1, affirm what you're committed to, right? Don't say I am wealthy if you're not wealthy. Say I'm committed to becoming wealthy, or I'm committed to doubling my income this year, or I'm committed to getting a raise, or I'm committed, right, increasing my revenue by 12%, whatever it is. Commit to something that is in your control, or at least that you have influence over, right? You might be able to influence, you might not be 100% in control of the doubling of the income, but you have influence over that. So I am committed to blank, no matter what, there's no other option. That's how I would phrase it. Number 2, affirm why it is a must for you. So write down 1 to 5 compelling reasons, benefits of that commitment becoming a reality that are so compelling, so meaningful, so important to you that when you read them, you're reminded, I don't care if I feel like it. I'm doing this for my wife for this reason. I'm doing it for my kids for this reason. I'm doing it for me for this reason. I'm doing it for my company for this reason, for my employees. Like, have reasons that are so important that you're willing to do whatever it takes to follow through. And step 3, affirm which specific actions you will take and when you will take them to progress toward the outcome that you're committed to. So I'm committed to, losing 20 pounds by the end of this year. I'm doing this because I want to be healthy. I want to look good for my wife. I want to be around for my grandkids, right? I deserve this. And in order to do that, I will limit my caloric intake to 1,500 calories a day and track it on a calorie app. And I will work out 20 minutes a day, 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, with a break on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 7 a.m. No matter what, there's no other option. That is an affirmation formula that programs your subconscious mind to be committed, and it reminds you of why you're committed, that fuels your drive, motivation, and it gives you clarity of action of what you're going to do to ensure that all of the things you're affirming become a reality.
That's great. I think similarly, I feel the same way about the law of attraction, where if you just imagine it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I do believe that you find what you're looking for in life. To me, that's the most basic version of the law of attraction. Like if I'm searching for the best in everything, yep, I'm going to find the best. I'm going to find the best version. Like we talked about earlier, AT&T went down today, and most people this will probably be a mark in most people's lives. They'll be able to tell us the date we recorded this podcast because it went down for like 3 hours this morning. Yeah. And I was talking to a friend, and I said, it was frustrating. Of course, I said, I just chose to decide that how thankful I am that how rarely this happens. Totally. Like I have this magical device in my pocket, yep, that just allows me to stay as connected as I want to. And I can, if I'm bored somewhere, I can check out stupid things people are doing on YouTube, or I can check in with my wife, right? Like, all right. So, it sucked, and it would be terrible if it was like 3 weeks like that, but it was like 3 hours, like everyone relax, it'll be fine. Yeah. So, but yes, people will remember that. But I do feel like your attitude shapes your experience, right? So the law of attraction to me is you find what you're looking for, which totally, there's a lot of proof for that. As we sort of wrap here, how you're supposed to be dead a couple times over. Yeah. You beat a coma and a bad car accident. You overcame, thankfully, prayed a lot for you, overcame some serious cancer not that long ago. How much do you think mindset had to do with that? I mean, I know that's a hard one probably to prove, but it's like, I just constantly, the answer that it just seems at the very least to me, without any data, and maybe you have some, that having a good attitude about something bad happening is always going to work out better than having a bad attitude about it. But tell me what you learned about that, man.
I'm going to share anecdotal evidence with you because I believe that is the most underrated evidence, right? If you're like, well, I talked to these 15 people and they all did this thing and this is the result they got. However, there were no double-blind placebo studies, so I don't trust it. Like, shut up. What are you talking about? So here's my real life experience. When I was 20 years old, hit head on by a drunk driver, found dead at the scene, heart stopped for 6 minutes, came out of the coma 6 days later, told I would never walk again. Had to process that. Like, oh my God, what? Like, okay, I have 11 broken bones. I'm never going to walk again. I have permanent brain damage. Like, this is a lot to process at 20 years old. I decided I'm going to do two things that to me was like I win either way. I'm going to accept the worst case scenario and be completely at peace with it. So if I spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair, I've decided, and I told everyone that I knew, the doctors, my dad, my mom, guys, I've decided if I'm in a wheelchair the rest of my life, you have nothing to worry about because I'm going to be the happiest, most grateful human being that you or anyone has ever seen in a wheelchair. So that's not so bad. And I would visualize like, okay, if I'm in a wheelchair, I could be happy, and I think I even Googled like happy people in wheelchairs. I don't know, maybe I'm making that part up, but right. But that's what I would do now. Right. But then I said, now that I've accepted the worst case scenario and I'm totally at peace with it, I'm giving it zero attention and zero energy. I'm now focusing 100% of my energy on walking again. I'm going to pray every day with unwavering faith that I could walk again. I'm going to visualize walking again. I'm going to affirm I can and will walk again. But if I don't, there's no fear because I'm going to be happy and grateful in a wheelchair. So I win either way. Now, the doctors thought I was in denial. They're like, your son, they called my parents in. They're like, he needs to accept that he's probably never going to walk again. He's always smiling and laughing and joking and, he needs to face reality. And they go, well, no, he said he's accepted the worst case scenario, but he's putting his energy into the best. Now, to your point, Nick, I don't have a graph that shows you how that mindset that I maintain day after day after day affected that 2 weeks later, 2 weeks after the doctors told my parents I was in denial and delusional, they came back with routine x-rays and they said, we don't know how to explain this, Hal, but your body is healing. Like, I doubt they used the word miraculously, but that's kind of what they were alluding to. And we're going to let you take your first step today in therapy. So it went from never walking again to me saying, I will, visualizing, praying, maintaining faith. And 3 weeks after I was found dead at the scene and broke 11 bones, I took my first step and eventually ran that ultra marathon. Now, I fast forward 17 years later. I'm diagnosed with a rare aggressive form of cancer called acute lymphoblastic leukemia. I'm 37 years old. I've got 2 kids. It's the scariest thing in the world to be told there's only a 20 to 30% survival rate for this cancer. So there's a 70 to 80% chance that I'm going to die. Now, immediately, within minutes, I remembered, wait, I remember 17 years ago when the doctor said that there was no way I was going to walk again. And I said, no, I'm going to. There's no other option. And I did. I defied the odds once. I will defy them again. And I said, I told my wife, she was distraught. Understandably, she was terrified. I said, sweetheart, look, I know you're scared. I don't blame you. But look, I've done this before. I've done this before. I'm going to do it again. And I said, I know you're hyper focused on the statistic, 20 to 30% survival rate. Those are grim odds. Those are terrible odds. I said, but here's how I want you to think about it. Here's how I'm thinking about it. There's a 100% chance that I will be among the 20 to 30% of the people that beat this cancer because I will do everything that they did and more. I will do everything physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, logistically, everything. And I applied what I call the miracle equation, which is unwavering faith and extraordinary effort. I did chemo because I was told that I had to by even the best holistic doctors in the world. Yeah. But I also did 3 coffee enemas a week. I took 70 supplements every single day, natural whole food supplements. I did ozone sauna, lymphatic massage, visualized my healing every day, had an affirmation that was focused on those 3 commitments. I'm committed to beating cancer. Here's why. Here's what I'm going to do. I did everything in my power. And once again, the doctors were blown away by how quickly I was recovering and in remission and healing. And so that is the answer to your question is yes, I believe that your mindset impacts every single area of your life. And it's arguably the most important piece of it. And the Miracle Morning enables you to optimize your mindset, your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being every single morning so that you show up at your best every single day for the people that you love and the people that you lead.
Did you, in this case, like you did when they told you wouldn't walk, were you willing to accept the worst that could happen would be that you would die?
Yeah, that's after I had the car accident. I created this thing I called the can't change it mindset, which is like whenever something bad happens and you get upset, set your timer for 5 minutes. I call that the 5-minute rule. Give yourself 5 minutes to get upset and feel emotions so you can process your emotions. Don't suppress them, right? Because they come out sideways. But then you get to this point where you say 3 really powerful words. Can't change it. It's an acknowledgement. I can't change reality, what already happened, my past reality or current reality. I can change the future, right? But I can't change what I can't change. So right now I have a choice. I can totally resist it and wish it were different and be upset about it and angry and distraught, or I can completely allow myself to accept life as it is. There's a whole chapter, by the way, in the new edition of the book called The Miracle Life that is focused on how to do this so that I can give myself the gift of unconditional, unwavering inner peace no matter what's going on. That didn't mean it was easy because I was like, I'm at peace with death, but God, what's this going to mean for my kids and my wife? And the crazy part, Nick, is imagine I'm going to maintain, I've accepted the worst case scenario that I could die. Got it. But I'm going to maintain unwavering faith that I could live. So I want to focus my energy on living, but I went, wait a minute. As a dad, I have a responsibility to make sure, basically to prepare for my death. Like I have to prepare for my death, for my family. I've got to make sure all my affairs. So that was the weird part is I didn't think about that the first time around with the car accident, but now I'm like, I've got to put a bunch of energy into dying. I got to think about, well, if I die, what will happen to my wife? How will I set my kids up? Is my will in order? So it was wild, like doing chemo, being sick, trying to be positive, getting ready to die in case it happens. Like, yeah, man, I don't wish it on anybody.
Wild times. Well, Hal, you are a gift. I'm glad you're here with us. Please, everyone, check out the any version of the Miracle Morning you can find. There's like 150 different versions, but the new and expanded version is the one I recommend. Hal, thanks so much for joining us, man. Always a pleasure being on the journey with you.
I appreciate you, Nick. Thank you so much.